Hey guys, trying to mess around with this orientation here, trying to get it set up. Am I sideways or am I upright? Am I good to go now? I think I can see everybody's comments. Becoming dangerous, prepper for the ages, library lizard, Miss Mary, Nancy West. I can see you guys all coming in here. How is everybody tonight? It has been Monkey Food Garden, Northern Nine. It has been terribly cold by us here. We are, I'd say, at least 2 weeks off our growing season. Hey, JT, we're at least, I'd say, 2 weeks off our growing season. It's been very, very cold here. I've got all my cold weather stuff in, but actually tomorrow we're supposed to get a warm snap. Hey there, Patriot Preacher. I want to put in my cucumbers and my beans. My mom's beans that she's been, it's our kind of our family heirloom that we keep. They're a pole bean. Did videos on it back in the day, but I plant them every year. And last year I actually planted them for dry beans. I got 4 pounds of dry beans out of them, which I thought was pretty cool because mom always used them for green beans. And yeah, like I said, I'm hoping that the cold weather is going to ease up here so we can get some of those more tender vegetables in. But with the potatoes that I got planted, I'm expecting I should get probably about a bushel and a half for my first crop. They were red Pontiacs, which is kind of a red potato that grows really good around here. Kennebecks are another one, and Norlands are another one as far as potato varieties go. But I just want to practice um, this live streaming with you guys here so I can get a little better at it because I'd like to have some input and some conversations with you guys from time to time just about preparedness. Vicinator, Monkey Food Garden. The the big thing, which everybody is kind of not talking about, but it's on everybody's mind, is basically prices. And the best thing that I can say to you guys is if you have a Home Depot in your area and you walk into a Home Depot, everything that's pretty much sitting on a shelf at one point or another is going to be going up in price. It's just it's a matter of time. I've heard anything from about the 1st of June until about the middle of August. So I'm really expecting in the next few. Hey, our American, how you doing there? A Prepared Wanderer, hi, how you doing? Good to see you. Um, I'm expecting prices to go up on pretty much anything related to self-sufficiency, more or less, is going to go up. Some of the things that I think are everybody's going to have their own sort of flavor of preparedness depending on where they live, how old they are, and sort of at what level of self-sufficiency they're at. I got a half a dozen things that I don't know how I could prep if I didn't have those things. And the first one is canning. My canning gear is extremely important to me because I don't know how I would prep without my canning gear, plain and simple, because, we put up stuff ourselves. We can potatoes, we can meat, we can dry beans, we make, pickles, we do vegetables and stuff. These are all things that, we put up ourselves. Oh yeah, any coupons that you can get from this point forward, man, that's solid gold. Anything that you can lower the prices a little bit. If there's any stores or any places that where you can get points or kickbacks or rebates in the mail, take advantage of all that stuff because I'm telling you, the prices are going to start killing people here right shortly because some of the prices that I have seen on stuff, you're looking at a solid 30% increase in stuff. And the big thing is the material, like steel and aluminum. Just like the rep that I talked to with the fasteners. And when I say fasteners, I mean everything. I mean nuts, bolts, nails, anything to put anything together with. You're looking at flat 30% increase, and they can't even domestically source enough steel to cover their needs, and that's just one company, one business. So now if you take that and, expand that out and look around you and how much stuff is made out of, steel or aluminum or anything like that, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. I can only imagine, a new pickup truck now is, $60,000, and that's on the low side. I, I'm pretty sure in my lifetime yet I'm going to see $100,000 vehicles and just normal vehicles that normal people drive, not anything luxurious or anything. I can see that coming. And canning gear, you can can stuff pretty easily with a stock pot and a grate in the bottom of it, or a little rack in the bottom to get your cans up off the bottom. High acid things that have sugar and stuff in it. You can can that stuff pretty simply with just a basic hot water a bath. But if you want to do potatoes or dry beans or meat, you need a pressure canner. I can remember when pressure canners were $50, $60. Now you're looking at 400, and there are pressure canners that are domestically produced, but they are very, very expensive now. And again, they're only going up. Yeah, Joann Fabrics, that's another one. They talked about some of those stores staying open, but now they're going to close everything. My mother used to go to Joann Fabrics all the time because she made clothes for us. And what the other thing was is she patched clothing. How many people patch clothing anymore? When it gets a hole or a rip or a tear in it, people just throw it out. They pitch it. Mom would take, jeans. She had a quilt that she made, and I don't have it anymore, but she had a quilt that she made out of denim. She made it out of the old jeans that we had, cut out all the different colors of blue in the denim and put it all together like a crazy quilt. You just don't see that stuff anymore. And yeah, hot water bath. You can hot water bath other stuff. I don't want to get into the whole rebel canning to non-rebel canning debate, but there's a lot of things that can be canned, not by the USDA guidelines, and I seen my mother do it. A lot of times they would, pears was one in particular. People always would say, go ahead and, pressure can that. My mom usually didn't pressure can pears because she would put a heavy syrup on them. She would put that heavy syrup on them and she would hot water bath them. And they did keep, I never seen one can of mom's pears ever spoil. But again, that's getting into that whole debate. But yeah, crazy quilts were a thing, and cloth wasn't thrown out. When I was a kid, we had what they called a rag bag, and that rag bag had all the scrap clothing. If there could be, 6 inches square taken out of an old garment, it was saved. It was put into that bag, and then it was, made into other stuff, or there would be patches made. That stuff was all saved. But my canning gear, and, talking about sewing and stuff there, I actually have 2 of Mom's sewing machines here. I haven't gotten them out in a long time. I would probably be terrible at it, but if I had to sew up some stuff, I could probably figure out how to do it. And we actually had we had a treadle sewing machine here too, but that just got too big and too, it's too hard to store and stuff. So I actually got that to somebody who could actually use it. So it's still out there in the wild being used, but I don't have that here anymore. Chainsaws are another one. Now I know people that live in apartments, live in town or whatever, but I'm here to tell you a chainsaw, not even getting into the whole aspect of, cutting your own firewood for heating or for cooking or anything like that. But look at storm damage. Anytime a storm blows through here, people who have chainsaws, that is an extremely valuable thing to have. We just that massive ice storm that they had up there in the northern part of the Lower Peninsula. Hey there, whatever, prepper, how you doing? I can only imagine what it was like driving around on those roads if you didn't have a chainsaw to cut the limbs and get them out of your way. See, that's something if you live in a really wooded area, you have to deal with from time to time is basically a tree over the road, and you have to trim that and get that out. So storm damage and, chainsaws, and of course, everything that goes along with chainsaws. I grew up with chainsaws and in a rural area, and that gets into a little bit into the whole aspect of power equipment. rural areas run on power equipment, and if you don't have your power equipment kind of up and running, you're gonna run into problems. I see it, and I really seen it last year, because I work in a place now that does a certain amount of service. We had a power outage, and it wasn't even that big a power outage, just a day or two in the general area. All these generators that people brought in that they thought would run and didn't run because they were malfunctioning, and the main reason that they didn't work was they had ethanol gas in them, and that ethanol gas gummed up the carburetor and they would not run. Ethanol gas is death on small engines. So this is my advice to you out there. If you have any power equipment like generators or chainsaws or, small tractors, whatever that you may have, put what they call wreck gas in it, or gas that doesn't have any ethanol in it. And they call it wreck gas. And it comes anywhere between 89 and 91 octane. But that wreck gas can save you a repair bill. And, if you need your generator, you need it. You don't, it's not going to do you any good if it doesn't run. And then that's another thing, your power equipment like your chainsaws and your generators and stuff, that's stuff that has to be started from time to time. And for me here, about 4 times a year, unless I actually do have a power outage, I will fire up the generator and I will run it. And battery chainsaws, that's another one that's coming up here. Now, if you have, you live in town, or you live in a suburban area and stuff where you're not heating wood with wood or something, a battery powered chainsaw can come in handy. And the thing with a battery powered chainsaw, you can charge up a couple of batteries and you can have them on standby so that you can go ahead and you can use them. So I don't discount the battery operated tools at all. Yeah, it is a Packers hat. I only wear that when I'm traveling through the west end of the UP or into um, either the eastern part of Minnesota or northern part of Wisconsin. I believe in going local, and I actually had a guy that I knew. Um, he was what they call loss prevention. He went around and caught shoplifters, and he would actually change his disguise. And his disguise was multiple different sports teams' hats, and he would actually switch those hats when he was like spying on people when he was trying to catch shoplifters. And so I always carry 2 or 3 different hats with me when we're traveling, and then I usually pick one of the local sports teams, and then boom, I'll put on whatever hat that I need to blend in with the local, so to speak. And I've even been known to purchase hats when I'm out and about and traveling, just so I can blend in. But generators is another one. A generator is an expensive thing, and it's an expensive thing to invest in. And it took me literally several years to actually afford a generator and get one hooked up here in the house. And it isn't one big, it's a portable, but I have it so it will run the essential things in the house. It doesn't run everything in the house. And I wanted it portable because I still wanted it to take with me if we ever leave this place here, or if somebody else needs a generator. I'm kind of the prepper that if I can help out my neighbors or help out people I know, or if I don't need the stuff, I will loan it out and let them use it. But I wanted my generator to be portable, and I can run my generator on propane. It originally was gasoline, and then I went to a company that was called U.S. Carburation. No affiliation. I'm not in what do you call it, sponsored by anybody or anything. But I bought. I had a couple people tell me about it. It was called a motor snorkel from U.S. Carburation, and it was out of Tennessee. And I bought one of those motor snorkels, which was a propane conversion kit, and I converted over my generator to run on propane. And I did it myself. It was a pretty simple job. And I've had people tell me that propane doesn't have the same amount of power in it that unleaded gasoline, but I have never noticed a difference here running the stuff that we run. Lights, furnace. Our furnace is natural gas, but lights, furnace, refrigerator, freezer, wash machine. And that's kind of the essential stuff that I have hooked up to our generator here. And then of course, we have an electric stove. Excuse me, I have an electric stove, so an electric stove, our generator won't run an electric stove. So, I actually have, the outlets that run along our kitchen counter. Those are hooked up to the circuits, the transfer switch and the circuits on the generator, so I can run stuff like, little electric appliances like a crock pot or a rice cooker, which for us here, I can make some pretty good stuff in those things if we would have a, short-term power outage. And then I got the propane, I got the fire pit, I got, just a regular grill. And if you buy a grill, try to always get one that has a side burner on it, because then you're covered. You got your grill that you can cook meat or whatever on, but then you can make a side dish, potatoes, rice, whatever, on that side burner. So that's that's another thing that I wanted to mention. But it took a long time for us to get a generator here, but I'm very happy with it. And I hooked it up with a transfer switch, and when I had everything hooked up, I did it myself. I didn't know a lot about it, just followed the instructions, and I had an electrician friend of mine come and look at it. And he came, looked it over, and there was absolutely nothing that he needed to change different. I had done it all right. And then I actually got and this is something too, people always talk about people stealing generators. And what I did was to secure that generator, because it's a portable generator, right? It's made to move around. I have an outbuilding, and I can run that generator in the outbuilding, where there's nobody in. Of course, you never want to run a generator inside a building where, people are, because of the carbon monoxide danger. But we have an outbuilding where there's nobody that's in there. I can lock that generator up in that outbuilding. I can run it, and I can run the cord. I got a waterproof neoprene covered cord, and I made the cord that goes from that outbuilding into the transfer switch on the side of my house. So that way I can lock up my generator if I'm not there right by it watching it, to run for the house, and I don't have to worry about, it's still, I suppose somebody could still, rip the door off and steal it anyway, but it's going to be a lot harder for them to do that. So that's, and I think everybody should have at least something basic to charge, a phone or to run stuff, and if your finances get better where you can afford a generator, I certainly recommend getting a generator. But if you only have something simple like a jump starting pack for a vehicle, a lot of times they're going to have USB ports on them, and you can use those to charge like your phone and your devices and stuff, because I know the grid can go down and everything can go to heck in a handbasket, but for most people in a lot of different, regular emergencies, your cell phone is kind of your communication device. So it's good to have extra stuff with that. And getting into battery chargers. The ability to charge a vehicle battery is extremely important. And I have seen the two main things that I've seen with vehicles over the years in just different situations. Hey there, Anonymous. Mr. Bumble, how you doing? The things that I have seen with vehicles either had something to do with tires, the most common stuff, or batteries. So if you have a way to jumpstart a vehicle, or you have a jump starting pack, or even better, if you have a way to charge a vehicle battery, I think everybody should have at bare minimum what they call a trickle charger. It's a 2-amp charger, and then if you have battery operated stuff, whatever, like you can get things like generators that have electric starts on them and stuff. But if you have a small battery like that, hey Zeke, how you doing? If you have something that you have a small battery that charges, or you need a charger to go on that battery, it's called a battery maintainer. And what that does is you plug that in, and that just keeps a small amount of energy going into that battery, and it can actually save the batteries from dying. Now, I got a battery out here, a little lawnmower battery that I have been using. The sticker on the top of the battery, the little sticker with numbers on the top of your battery, will tell you when that battery was manufactured. And the small battery that I have out there that usually only lasts about 2 years, I got 5 years out of it because I had it hooked up to one of those battery maintainers. But the ability to charge a battery, if a vehicle is set for a long time and it needs to be started or moved and the battery's dead, if you either have a jump starter where you can jump start it or you have a way to charge that battery, I think that's very important that people that prep have something like that. Even at bare minimum, a set of jumper cables carried around in your vehicle. And then tires. Tires is another one. A flat tire is a pain, and a lot of people, um, changing a tire can be dangerous, especially if it's along, like I-75 or something like that. If you're on a really busy road, changing a tire can be dangerous. I don't like doing that. And a lot of those jump starting packs will have an air compressor on them and a little air pump. So what I do is I get those the plugs for tires, and I carry a bottle of soapy water with me, and you put that a little air compressor that's on that battery charger up to your tire. You turn it on, you pump air into it. You take a little pop bottle of soapy water and you put that over the tire, and then you're going to see um, bubbles. Where the bubbles are blowing out, that's where the hole in your tire is. And usually there'll be a nail or something like that in it. Well, then if you have a needle nose pliers with you, you can pull that nail out and you can take those plugs and you can put one or two plugs in that tire where it's at, then let your compressor pump the tire up. Now you've got kind of a temporary patch on that tire where you can drive out of, a dangerous spot and take it to the actual tire garage and have it looked after, have a patch put on or whatever. You can use the Fix-A-Flat too, but there's been different times where I have seen the Fix-A-Flat kind of fail. But if you take a can of Fix-A-Flat with you, you have an air compressor with you, and you have those tire plugs and those tire patches, um, you have the ability to pretty much fix a tire right on the car, and you don't have to take it off. You don't have to worry about fumbling with a jack that has a weird, way that it works, or you've never hooked it up before. So now it's cold, dark out, it's raining. You're trying to figure out how to use the jack. You finally do get the spare tire out. The spare tire's flat. So now you got to pump up the spare tire before you can even put it on. It's just easier to go ahead and try to fix that tire. At least that is my way of doing it. I just feel that is the best. And then small hand tools, even something so simple as a small handsaw to patch something or repair something. And people need. I've seen this so many different times where people either had a broken window or they had a small leak in, a roof and something. Now you have, you got a problem basically with your shelter, so you have to repair that. And, having a few tarps, having a can of what they call blackjack, which is a tar, comes in a can like a paint can. And what you can do is you can go up on a roof, and if you have a leak in a roof, like around a chimney or a skylight, you can actually go up there with some shim shingles, which are basically just little pieces of wood, and you can spread that tar on there and you can patch that. And now, until you can get the professionals out to look at it, you've repaired that roof. And like I said, and a bad windstorm comes through, blows a couple of shingles off your roof. Now you got a leak there, so now you got other problems with that. But those are just some of the things that relate back to my preparedness. I know it sounds more like a do-it-yourself commercial here, but that is preparedness. Being able to take care of yourself for different problems that can come up. And there's just been so many times when I have seen people in dire straits because they had something simple that could be repaired or fixed, and they didn't think ahead to have that stuff. It's not always about and people too. It's a typically American thing. The American preppers want to always throw money at problems, basically. And I just grew up in a way where there wasn't money to throw at a problem, so we had to figure out a way around it. And the old timers were like that too. They were just so resourceful. And I've seen it when we went up into the Upper Peninsula and stuff in different camping and fishing trips and stuff. I seen some of the old timers up there, and I seen just how tremendously resourceful they were. And it's because when you grow up in that sort of environment where you're constantly you're constantly trying to fix your own stuff. Now you're getting into things where people will, save parts off of stuff because they seen that part break before, and now they start having extras of that stuff. It's a cascading thing, but in a good way. It's like I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, I've got 3 buddy heaters because we use, buddy heaters pretty frequently here for different things. And I have one that I got here that doesn't work anymore that I use for parts. And I actually finally had another one here that I use for parts that I took everything off that I possibly could use. And, so when you have something that malfunctions or fails and you're going to go ahead and get, it's wore out or whatever, and you're going to get another, version or model of that, think about saving some of the parts off of that because I've seen it so many times where people would discard something, but a, you still had some good, useful stuff on there. And, I'm a firm believer in, stripping parts off of stuff that you can use in the future. And that's just a mindset that doesn't exist nowadays anymore. It's a throw out society. We live in a throw out society. Becoming dangerous there. You're saying your dad was a carpenter and a welder, grew up making your own tools. I have seen a lot of old timers that saved lumber. An old building was tore down. Now I've seen, buildings that still had good lumber on it. They come in there with one of those bucket loaders and a dumpster and stuff and dump trucks, and they just demolish, they rip the whole thing apart where there was good working lumber on there. I seen buildings that the old timers built with nothing but scrap lumber, scrap 2x4s, scrap 2x8s, scrapped 1x that they had taken off there. I've seen buildings actually built with nothing but secondhand lumber. When was the last time you heard of that going on nowadays anymore? It doesn't. And people throw out stuff that is, still good. And I guess that's another thing. The old timers, a lot of people on prepping channels and stuff, they talk about, the depression and stuff. And I knew a lot of people that lived through the depression, were kind of middle age in the depression when I was young and growing up. And that's where you see stuff like, old timers saving bread bags and saving aluminum foil and saving buttons off of shirts and stuff. And like I said, with mom and the rag bag and secondhand lumber, that stuff was just saved. If there was a use for something, it did not get discarded. And I guess the big one nowadays is food. So much food is thrown out. You go to a restaurant and you kind of watch other people, they'll eat maybe half their plate and they'll leave it. When I was a kid growing up, I mean, you got in trouble if you didn't eat the food that was on your plate. And, people have just gotten out of that nowadays. There has been a change. Like I said, when I say it's a throw out society nowadays, it includes food too. And that's something, if there would be some type of SHTF event, there would be some type of large event where things do become scarce. You can't waste anything. You can't waste that food. If this another thing too, if mom made a ham was at least 3 meals for us when we were growing up. We would have the ham maybe on Sunday after church. The leftover ham would be ham and scallop potatoes, and then the bone would be boiled with beans for bean soup on like Wednesday. So a ham was good for 3 big meals. Plain and simple. Same thing with a chicken or a turkey. If a turkey would be roasted in the oven, that'd be turkey noodle soup or some type of casserole later in the week. That there was always multiple meals that came out of stuff. Even vegetables. Like if we had boiled potatoes one night, we'd have fried potatoes the next night. Or if we had mashed potatoes, the next day we would have potato pancakes. It was always nothing ever went to waste. And when you got fresh vegetables, like a fresh cucumber, a fresh tomato, I didn't buy a tomato out of a grocery store until I was probably 18 years old, and I was starting to kind of get out on my own. Hey there, common man. Um, I just we just didn't do that. I mean, you didn't go buy vegetables. You use vegetables fresh out of the garden, or you used what was canned down in the basement. Stewed tomatoes were used to make, Hungarian rice or goulash or spaghetti sauce, and we'd have spaghetti stuff like that. But to go to a restaurant and to have like a fresh salad, that was like awesome because you didn't always have that. Back at home because that's just the way, and like apples. If you had like a fresh apple or a pear off the tree, that was great because any other time it would either be applesauce or it would be like canned pears. Those are that's the way. And, when people live like that for a certain period of time, the whole prepping thing just, I think, comes easier to folks like that because, I don't know. I'd like to do a live from time to time. I got to get my equipment set up a little bit better than what I got here, but I'm hoping that I can do I can do lives where I can chat with you guys about what's going on and just general preparedness a couple times a month at least. It's just the world is just going crazy now. There is just so many things that shouldn't be that are. And the only way that I know to kind of fight it and combat it is, being self-sufficient. Like I seen a poster once that said the most defiant act that you can do is raise a garden, grow your own food. And I truly believe that. I would like to get chickens again. I was actually really good at raising chickens when I was a kid. I actually still got a couple of plaques here from the FFA that I belonged to for basically raising poultry. And that's another thing. A lot of the small towns around us where we live here in rural Michigan have started to open it up where even though you're living in the town or in the village, you can have a couple of chickens to raise your own eggs. And see, that's where things have started to change out here, where that was like having livestock in town was a big no-no for such a long time. But now that's starting to change. Things like gardens and stuff are where we're at here is being even encouraged, and which is a good thing. I mean, I was the only guy around here for the longest time that had a garden, and now, pretty much every other house has some kind of garden growing, or it's got, some planters that have a tomato plant or something growing, on the front porch. Just drive around, you take a walk, and later in the summer, you see cans of not tomatoes, cans of sundill sitting on porches where people are fermenting dills on their front porch, which is awesome, which is what I like to see. But outside of the prepper community, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. The prices are the big thing. A lot of people will talk about deficits too. And when we had our taxes done here a year ago, I flat out asked the tax guy, he's an accountant, that's all they do, is crunch numbers, and, their whole bread and butter is knowing the tax thing and money and all that other stuff. And I asked him, I said, what about this national debt? What about these, trillions and trillions of dollars? And he just kind of like blew it off, said it was, no. Eventually they'll probably just, write it off or something, or declare some kind of national bankruptcy. Didn't really seem concerned about it at all. And that just blew my mind because I'm thinking, if that would happen, what would that do to the markets? What would that do to the value of the dollar? What would that do to just the average person on a street? I'm sure it would be a terrible catastrophe. But, people that are in that business are just kind of, that's, run her till she blows, I guess. And I guess I don't agree with any of that. But I can definitely see where something like that in my lifetime, and I'm older than I look, I could definitely see where something like that could, take place in our lifetime. And for me personally, and that's another thing. Hey there, Tammy, how are you? That's another thing. As I get older, I don't want more and more stuff. I actually want less and less stuff because as I get older, actually over 50, as I get older, I want less stuff to look after and take care of. I just want my little garden, maybe a couple of chickens, and want my little pantry and a little kitchen table to sit on, and a little place where I can cook, and a little place where I can sit down, and maybe a couple of chairs and a little table outside where I can have my coffee in the morning and watch the sunrise. That's all I want, in a reliable vehicle to drive me around what little I need. That's all I want, you know? I just want the basics. I don't really want no 100-acre place anymore, because it's just, and I've seen this so many times where people work their whole lives to get this, really nice self-sufficient place. Then they get too old, or somebody has an accident, falls, somebody has a heart attack, or they fall, break a hip, and they can't take care of it anymore. And now it's, they can. And I feel I've reached a peak in my life where I need to start, downsizing. So that's just my opinion on it. But I see where a lot of people want to constantly buy more, buy more, buy more. And I'm not sure that that's the best way to go about things. But, you know, if anybody's got anything they want to put in the comments as far as, what is your favorite prepping item that you got at home? I mean, you got a generator, you got a side by side you haul wood with, or you got a particular tiller you like, or you got a little small garden tractor that you plow with. Like, we got a neighbor just down the street here. He's got a nice little tractor with a tiller attachment, and boy, that's a nice thing. That's a great thing to barter with. Oh yeah, cash comes in handy, and cash is a prep. I don't care what anybody says. I know I've had a lot of people. I had somebody ask me once. It was sort of a question on like a forum, and they said, "What one item would you like to have if SHTF happened?" And I said $10,000 in a backpack. Boy, I got absolutely roasted. Oh, the money's going to be worthless. I said, but yeah, and until that money is worthless, $10,000 can buy you out of a lot of problems. And I still look at that until that money isn't worth anything anymore. Up till that point, it's still got value. You can buy a ride somewhere. You can even buy a car if you have enough money to get you out of a problem area, whatever. But cash is definitely a prep, in my opinion. And that's just my take on that. But living simply, Library Lizard. If you can live simple and you're happy with what you have, I'll tell you what, it gives you a peace of mind. If you're satisfied with a roof over your head, and you got a warm and comfortable place to relax in, and you got a pantry full of food, and that gets back to one thing my grandmother always said. Grandma always would say the best investment you can have is a full pantry, and she's seen the depression, and she was never one for the stock market or any of that other stuff that kind of goes along with it. And you know, the old timers really put a lot of emphasis on food, and that's because there were times where there wasn't a lot of food. And I remember different stories, the old ones around here, where the men would travel for work, and they'd have somebody knock on the door, and they say, hey, we're really hungry. Do you got anything that we can have? We'll split some wood for you, or we'll go out and feed the cattle for you or something. We're just, we're hungry. And a lot of the old women around here, they actually would plan for that. And if that did happen, they'd give them a bowl of soup or a couple slices of bread, or they'd make them a sandwich or something like that. And these guys would, they would honor their word, and they would split some wood, and they would, fill up a wood box for them, or whatever that they needed at that particular time. But that was actually in the 30s and stuff. That was actually pretty common pre-World War II. My grandpa, I did a video a long time back on grandpa's gold coin, and I still got it. And it's a $5 California gold piece. And the story behind that was, there was a guy that would always borrow a little money here and there from my grandfather. And then finally one day he just disappeared, and never never seen the guy for like years and years and years. And then all of a sudden one day the guy popped up again and he gave grandpa that $5 gold piece. And he says, that'll make up for all the little money that I borrowed from you over the years. And grandma said, are you going to, do something with it or spend that or something? Grandpa said, nah, I'm just going to, I don't need the money for right now. I'm just going to keep it. It's a good story basically. And that got passed down to my grandmother and then my mother, and now, well, I have that same coin and I'll probably still keep it. Who knows, down the road if it'll still stay in the family or whatever, but for now it's a little keepsake and a little reminder of those days. So I hope everybody is doing well out there. It's I expect this summer to be pretty hairy all the way around, and I'm really surprised that things haven't kind of gotten more fired up yet. But I'm thinking that that's going to come with the heat of summer. I think that when the prices start going up and people start getting a little bit more agitated and whatnot, and I think that there will be a certain amount of panic buying if they're kind of downplaying the price increases, but I know the price increases are coming. I absolutely know they are. And that wouldn't surprise me if that boils up into a little bit of civil unrest or shopper anger, however you want to put it. And you see a lot when you interact with the public every day like I do, and you get a lot of different opinions on things, and you see a lot. And it's really, you really have your finger on the barometer of your local area, and that's one thing. I really encourage people to explore their local area so they know what they have around them for people, for resources. There can be all sorts of resources right in front of you if you recognize them for what they are. And it's just the way that it is. But I guess I'm going to kind of close it and wrap it up here. I really appreciate everybody stopping by here to catch this live stream here with me. Like I said, I'm practicing at it. I'm not the best at it yet. This is only the second time I did it. The first time I did it was when we were traveling there for work a couple of days ago, and I said, you know what, I got a little time. I'm just going to hop on here and I'm going to try to do some of this stuff. But wanted to spend some time with you guys, and I wanted to just have a discussion. Just talk to you guys with whatever kind of pops into my mind here when it's related to preparedness. But I don't script anything. Everything that I do is pretty much right off the top of my head. I don't have no teleprompter in front of me. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. I am glad that you stopped by here. I always hope that you guys get something out of my videos when I do it, whether it's a recipe or it's an idea, a different way how to do things, kind of looking back into the old ways of doing things. I hope just trying to keep those things alive and well in this day and age, because those were the things that kept my parents and grandparents going. It was those kind of old ways that they did things, and when preparedness was a lifestyle and not just sort of a hobby like it is today for so many. But I want preparedness to be a lifestyle for everybody. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. I appreciate all you guys out there. I hope you guys always get something out of my videos here, and you guys have a good one.